Welcome to the commentary booth where we watch and you guessed it, commentate on the week that was in movies and TV. I'm your host and play-by-play commentator Jamie Upps, and each week I'm joined by a rotating cast of colour commentators to help you find your next viewing treat. This week I'm joined by an impact fee technician who lists their favourite movie as A Nightmare on Elm Street and favourite TV show as Golden Girls. Welcome back to the show, Colossus, Karina Maybe.
Wow. Honestly, I'm not going to be offended by that because I'm pretty badass and Colossus is pretty badass and I feel pretty indestructible as well. So, or was that just because I like metal cups and now you're fucking with me about my metal cups?
That's a good bonus, but yeah, you can be Colossus and then I feel like Chloe's Negasonic Teenage Warhead.
Chloe is a beast of her own. Fucking monster.
No.
Never have a teenager. Like baby stage is very cool. I feel like once you get past 10 and they can start talking back to you is when you have problems. So just word to the wise. If you can skip the teenage years, do it.
Yeah, unfortunately, that's not how children work.
You never know.
So this week, we come to the conclusion of our journey back into the Fox MCU as we rewatch Deadpool 2 in anticipation of Deadpool and Wolverine, which arrives in the next few days by the time this episode comes out. So Deadpool 2, the 2018 sequel to the previous entry, which was released in 2016. So they actually turned those both around quite quickly. And this time around, the foul-mouthed mutant mercenary Wade Wilson, aka Deadpool, assembles a little team of his own fellow mutant rogues to protect a young boy with abilities from that he tries to protect him from the time-traveling Cable. Yeah, pretty quick turnaround for these two. 2 years.
Yeah, compared to what we're going on now. I'm sure that has a lot to do with licensing and all that other good stuff. So there's that.
Yeah, they must have signed a two movie deal right off the bat, and just as soon as like the early dailies and stuff were coming through from the first one, they're like, "Oh yeah, cool, sign off," and let's immediately go into working on the second one. And yeah, from the sounds of it, they were pretty much always going to make two, because like the post credits in the first one, they talk about what's going to be in the second one straight away.
Yeah. Yeah, I was impressed with that turnaround time because we didn't have to wait umpteen years for like a sequel or anything like that. People knew what they were getting, which is what Marvel's been doing all along, kind of like leading up to like the next Marvel release. But we hadn't really gotten a whole lot of that because we really just had X-Men to go off of for Deadpool, like as far as Fox is concerned. So there wasn't really a whole lot of that.
Yeah, I was reading here that they were working on the sequel before the first movie came out, but then it wasn't until February 2016 where the sequel was confirmed. And then, so the original creative team of Ryan Reynolds, Reese, and Wernick, and the director Tim Miller were supposed to return for the sequel, but then Tim Miller left the project in 2016 in October due to creative differences with Reynolds, but was soon replaced by David Leitch, who had previously directed John Wick, Atomic Blonde, Hobbs and Shaw's after this. He also has done Bullet Train and The Fall Guy, so it sounds like he's kind of one of Reynolds' go-to now.
Yeah, I was going to say that kind of explains like the style and everything like that we see in these movies too, I guess, like it's just kind of I don't know, they're all very similar in their action sequences and stuff like that,
Yeah, this one's much more action-packed with the sort of the John Wick influence on this one.
Yeah, just, they don't even wait, really. It's just violent from start to finish, essentially.
Mm-hmm. The cast, Ryan Reynolds returning as Deadpool. He also provided the voice for Juggernaut in this one. I didn't realize that.
I didn't know that either.
So
that's awesome.
Ryan Reynolds did like the actual like vocal recordings, and then they like warped it with sound editing. So in the credits it says Juggernaut is just voiced by himself.
I love that. That's that's awesome.
Uh, Marina Baccarin returns as Vanessa, Wade's fiance, but she's pretty much dead for the vast majority of this film.
Yeah, she's an important role. However, she's not in it very much at all.
Yeah, she's kind of just a ghost in like 3 or 4 moments.
She's like the driving factor for the most part as to Deadpool's like really rhyme or reason for trying to do good things, I guess now.
Yeah, true. Yeah, he's trying to work out a way to save her or at least make up for the mistakes that he did that cost her her life.
Yeah.
And initially I was like, oh, well, that ruins my theory of she's going to be an important character in the sequel. But then, spoiler, she ends up being saved at the end and they use Cable's stolen watch to revive her
Yep.
or prevent her death.
Yes.
TJ Miller returns as Weasel.
The
Apparently he's had,
sidekick that doesn't really do anything.
yeah, apparently he's sort of had some personal trouble. So that's kind of why he's such a diminished role in this one.
Yeah. He is that his side character. I feel like they really wanted more for his character and they kind of just were like, how can we smooth this over the best way possible?
Well, I think because of the like, obviously something happened offset. Like, I think it was probably drugs or something like
Who
that.
knows?
And yeah, he's
Yeah.
kind of pushed to the side. He's very rarely in this, much less
Hmm.
than he was in the original.
Yeah.
Stephen Kapicic provides the voice of Colossus again. My my one note that I wrote down about Colossus is Deadpool finally gets him to say fuck.
And it's glorious.
And immediately looks at him and goes, oh, you're going to hell.
Yeah. Poor Colossus. He's just trying to be like the best person possible and like the most accepted like mutant ever and be good and just yeah, he gets turned to the dark side really quick for a second.
Yeah, he's just goody two shoes, and then yeah, finally says fuck, and it's like yes.
It's awesome.
Brianna Hildebrand returns as Negasonic Teenage Warhead, the character that we last episode found out is a reworking of a character that doesn't actually have any of these powers.
Yeah. She's just like a hybrid mush pile.
I do like that in this one she's in like a same-sex relationship.
Mm-hmm.
Brianna is actually openly LGBTQ as well. So she was fine for them to portray it this way, and like she responded positively to that development of the character, but wanted to ensure that it wasn't made like a big deal about it. It was just kind of, it was there. And I think they
Yeah.
did that, and it's how it should be. Like, it shouldn't be like, oh my
It
God,
wasn't
she's
her.
got a girlfriend. It's just like, hey, Kimika.
Yeah.
And that's all they do.
Yeah, it's not like it didn't become her character, and I feel like sometimes that does happen, especially nowadays where, a lot more companies are trying to be more inclusive, but I think some of them go about it the wrong way. Just so
Yeah,
they can feel like they're making an impact, but they're not quite doing it the way that it should probably be done. And so then you have characters that are just like that's all that their character is at some points, and it's kind of like it's kind of insulting, I feel, to the community a little. Like I'm sure they like being represented, but not in a way that that's why they're being casted essentially.
yeah, like they don't make a big deal out of it. They're just like, oh, this is Kimika. Hey, Kimika. And that's all that Deadpool does. He's just like, oh, hey, Kimika, the whole time. Just like, it's
Yeah, they
totally
have
normal that,
I love
totally
their
normal that
I
she's
love
here.
their, like, relationship. Yeah, it's wonderful. It's the cutest little thing. She's like a little anime character that just randomly popped into a fucking superhero movie, really.
Mhm. And Negasonic Teenage Warhead gets a much better X-Men suit this time because she's graduated from trainee to fully fledged X-Men,
Yes.
which is good to see. I'm glad they got her a good suit because that last one was,
God awful.
yeah, it was terrible. Leslie Uggams as Blind Owl. She's a bit more important in this one. Dipinda returns.
Mhm.
Karen Sony returns as Dipinda. And he has a bigger role in this one too, where he's kind of trying to become one of the mercenary assassin people. And it's like, what are you doing?
I love his character. He's so good. Like outing himself about like kidnapping his brother so he could take the wife or like his bride or
Oh
whatever
yeah.
because he wants to.
Like, what, Depinder, what's that? It's You told me I should kill him, so I kidnapped him.
Yeah, it's wonderful. He's trying to be like a mercenary and he's being a nice mercenary. It's hilarious.
And then the big one, Cable, Josh Brolin playing him. Pretty
Yeah.
wild considering he's already in the MCU.
Yeah, I remember when this was coming out and I was like, "Wow, Josh Brolin is having a fucking year." Like he was in so much shit and I feel like he just made like such a big impactful like comeback to Hollywood and stuff cuz you don't really hear too much about him except for like, smaller films or, just not huge box office hits, but then he was Thanos and now he's Cable and he's doing all this other shit and I'm like, "Dude, Brolin's having a year."
I guess that's the benefit of the other character that he was in the MCU, Thanos, being so CGI heavy where you can't really tell it's him. Like, he can double dip on that Marvel payday.
Yeah, I mean, his voice you can't miss
Quite
it, but
distinctive.
yeah, but it's so interesting. I was just like, wow, that dude is like multi-talented. It's crazy.
Yeah. I guess, yeah, like visually you can't tell it's him, but yeah, when you listen, you can tell it's him. But
Oh yeah.
good for him. Gets to take Fox money and Disney Marvel money.
Yeah, and he was like it wasn't like he was side characters either, It's one thing if you're just like stand-in or, one of the sidekicks, but no, he was like two major characters in two huge box office films. So that's giant.
Yeah, like the big bad of Deadpool and then the big bad of the MCU for quite a
Yeah.
period.
And I feel like Cable is such a well-known like character in the Deadpool universe that if they had miscast that, it would have been absolutely devastating for the franchise.
Yeah, and yeah, Cable's such an important character in X-Men as well, so it makes
Yeah.
sense that they got someone big for that. The other character that's pretty important, Julian Dennison as Rusty Collins, aka Firefist.
Yeah.
And what did you notice about him?
Oh, I pointed it out that he was a Kiwi. Um,
Correct.
I was so proud of myself when I texted you that. I was like, is he a Kiwi or is he an Aussie? Because it's a very for me, not I know for y'all distinctive, but like for us over here, and I'll say it, our us ignorant Americans over here, you guys have such a similar accent. It is very hard to distinguish the difference. But I worked with a person from New Zealand before, and then after talking to you for like the past umpteen years now, or whatever, it's like I can kind of tell the difference. So
Oh
I was
yeah,
really
yeah,
proud of myself.
that Kiwi accent is pretty distinctive. I'm
Yeah.
like, ah,
So
yeah, he's Kiwi.
yeah, I was like, oh wow, okay.
And so he was cast because Ryan Reynolds saw the movie Hunt for the Wilder People, which came out in 2016, and
Okay.
he was immediately like, I want that kid. And so they built the character and like tailor made the character for him, and
Nice.
they didn't even consider anybody else. They're like, nope,
That's
he's
kind of
playing that
cool.
character, and that's it.
That's gotta be so cool for like some kid to just be like, yeah, Ryan Reynolds recognized me and I was his pick. Like that's gotta be like the coolest kind of, badass moment to have.
And then, like we said, Deadpool builds his own team, the X Force.
Yes,
Some pretty big names in the X Force.
there is.
So first up is Zazie Beetz as Domino, a mercenary with the mutant ability to manipulate luck.
I love Domino. I hated her before. Like when I first saw this movie, I was like, she's fucking useless. Why is she in this movie? This makes no goddamn sense. But now that I've rewatched it more recently, I go, yeah, she's pretty badass actually. I don't mind her too much.
She's definitely entertaining.
Yeah.
And
She's
like, I
she's
think
good.
it's funny too because, yeah, even Deadpool's like, luck. That's not a power. What are you talking about?
Yeah.
The rest of the X Force team, though, Terry Crews as Bedlam.
Yep.
You get for someone that dies pretty quickly. Uh, Louis Tan as Shatterstar. Bill
hmm
Skarsgård as Zeitgeist.
Yeah, I remember when we were watching this and I messaged you and I was like, wait a second.
I didn't
I totally
didn't remember him
forgot.
being in it.
No, because he's in it for what, a whole 10 minutes?
Yeah, the X-Force doesn't last very long.
No.
Uh, Rob Delaney as Peter Wisdom. And do you know who played Vanisher?
Nobody? Air? Oh, there was actually a person. Oh, wait, hold on. Brad Pitt. It was Brad
Yeah,
Pitt.
it was Brad
Yeah,
Pitt.
I remember because when he spoiler, when he eventually gets electrocuted, you see his little face flash
Yeah,
and it's like,
his face flashes up. That's it.
that's right. I was like, wait a second. No, it is somebody important.
Yes, Brad Pitt. It's like, what?
hmm
When his face
Yeah, a
pops
whole
up,
two.
you're like, hang on a second.
I think that's what happens when you're Ryan Reynolds. You just like know so many fucking people in Hollywood. You're just like, hey, you want to be in this movie for 5 minutes? Cool.
Yeah, so they filmed that Vanisher cameo in 2 hours during post production when Brad Pitt had some free time.
Love it. That's fantastic.
Do you know who he was originally scheduled to play though?
No.
So he was originally meant to be Cable.
Oh. Oh. Mm-mm.
So yeah, Brad Pitt was supposed to
No.
be Cable, but then his schedule wouldn't allow him to do that and whatever other film he was working on. So he ended up just doing a little 2 hour cameo stint as a guy getting electrocuted.
I feel like that's kind of for the better because I can't see Brad Pitt being Cable. He's not as like rough and tumble and intimidating, honestly.
Yeah. We also get a brief cameo from the X-Men.
Yes.
James McAvoy as Professor X, Nicholas Hoult as Beast, Evan Peters as Quicksilver, Ty Sheridan as Cyclops, Alexandra Shipp as Storm, Cody Smith McPhee as Nightcrawler, and then some archival footage of Hugh Jackman from Logan from X-Men Origins Wolverine
Mm.
pops in there as well. So when you look
Yeah.
at this cast list, it's like, holy shit, there's a lot of people in this movie.
Yeah, even if it's just for like 5 minutes, there's just so many random cameos that pop in here and you don't even know that they're happening like you're just sitting there and you're like, wait a second. Was that just yeah.
I bet there's someone you didn't spot.
I bet there is.
Did you know Matt Damon's in this movie?
No, I did not know Matt Damon was in this movie.
Matt Damon is in this movie.
Oh, good. What does he play?
So when Cable goes back in time and he travels to the present day and then he walks past those two rednecks having their discussion on the
Oh, yeah, in the middle of like the desert or whatever.
on their ute. They're talking about this toilet paper manifesto thing, and the characters are portrayed by Alan Tudyk
hmm
and a disguised Matt Damon.
That's awesome.
But the Matt Damon character is later credited as Dickie Greenleaf, a reference to the 1990 film The Talented Mr. Ripley.
Oh boy. See, this is what makes these movies specifically so unique because not a lot of people would put thought into that. Like, let's go back in history, find like a random character name that that pertains to that person, and just throw it in there. Like,
It's the benefit of
yeah.
being Ryan Reynolds, and you can just call your mates and be like, hey, do you want to do a random cameo in this movie?
Yeah. Yeah. That's so interesting. I'm
Uh,
excited. Now that we've gone through this list of like cameos and like random people, I am so intrigued to see what happens in Deadpool and Wolverine because I can't imagine the amount of people that they could shove in this movie just out there for no reason.
Especially, yeah, with like the multiverse timeline jumping stuff, like you could randomly see like, oh, there's Matt Damon as like Cyclops. He's just
Yeah.
alternate universe Cyclops for no reason.
If we see some sparkly boots, we'll know who it is. Just saying. Don't let me down, Swift.
And then David Leitch and the two writers make cameos as icebox inmates
Oh,
at
okay.
the prison. So there's
Good
one of them's
times.
an icebox inmate. Another one is the news helicopter pilot and the news cameraman. So the three of them all have random cameos. It's just these
That's
offshoot,
awesome.
no point people.
Oh
And did you watch this one on Disney Plus?
Did I? Yes. Yeah.
Did
Yes, I
you
did.
read? Did you read what the blurb is when you open it up and before you hit play?
Oh no. Mm-mm.
It says the sequel to the first one.
Oh.
That's all it says.
Wait a second. Pardon me. I mean, you can continue. I'm just gonna go on Disney Plus really quick on my phone and just see that because
Yeah, it just says Deadpool
that's
2. Like, it's got the title, like Deadpool 2, and then the description is the sequel to the first one.
what the fuck? I can't with these people. I really cannot.
Yeah, I noticed it
At
when
all.
I was sitting there waiting to hit play, and I was like, "Huh, that's funny."
Does it really say that?
Mm,
Yep, it does.
the sequel to the first
Just
one.
one sentence line in
That's
the
all they
blurb.
needed to say.
Sequel to the first one. That's fucking hilarious. Uh,
To
I
be fair, that's probably all they should say to any sequel.
yes, yes, that's
You saw the
quite
first one,
true.
it's the sequel to that.
Yeah, yeah. I feel like that would have come in handy for like Sharknado and shit like that. Like
Mhm.
number 4, we really didn't need it, but we're gonna continue.
Uh, we also get a lot of pot shots at Wolverine as well, particularly when right from the start, Wade says "fuck Wolverine" for being more successful with his
Mhm.
R-rated movie Logan.
Yeah, and then there's like the little bobblehead of Wolverine, isn't it?
Yep, yeah, because they had like we mentioned last week, it was at the time the highest earning R-rated movie ever,
Yeah.
and then a couple of years later, it was pipped by Logan.
Yep. That'll do it.
And then it starts off in a similar way, like basically they used a very similar formula here, where we meet Deadpool, he's in a weird situation, like how the heck did he get here? And then it does
Yes.
the rewind and goes through the crazy action sequence to get him into this moment where he's blowing himself up.
Yeah. Bet you wonder how we got here, don't you? Well, let's take a look. Like, this is so good.
And interesting song choice for the score in that moment as well.
Yes. Yes.
You don't remember what it was.
Nope. Nope.
Dolly Parton.
Wait, yes, because I made that joke with you because yes, yes, I do know
Yeah.
because I made that joke and I was just like, look, he's a Deadpool, or he's a Dolly fan too.
Yeah, 9 to 5 is used as the song
That's
for
yes,
catch everyone up on this.
yes, that's yep. I remember that because we are Dolly Parton fans in this house.
And yeah, we see that Deadpool has been on a world tour of murder in the time between the first movie and this one. And I thought this was a great way to showcase like Leech's skills and allude to his past filmography with John Wick, because we just see like constant fourth wall breaking commentary and crazy brutal violence too. Like we see decapitations, limbs being chopped off, the
Hmm.
use of a chainsaw as a weapon.
Yeah, random bullet holes everywhere. Just
Mhm.
bunch of crazy shit.
And then we get the title sequence, but this time it's takes inspiration from James Bond.
Yes, I that's probably one of my favorite opening things because I love James Bond films, and the whole point of James Bond movies making them so great is the opening credit scenes with, like, the silhouettes of the sexy women, and then Ryan Reynolds is like, "How can I make this even better?"
And then all of the opening, like the credits in that opening moment, they're pretty much all complaining that about Vanessa's death.
Yes.
Like, fuck this guy. He did this, and then he did this. It's like, oh, Jesus.
Mhm. Yep, it's fantastic.
Are you a trading card collector or a fan of Australian pro wrestling? If so, you're not going to want to miss out on the limited edition Australian wrestling cards. Each set includes 50 packs of 10 cards, including some of the country's top wrestling talents like Robbie Eagles, Shane Haste, Madison Eagles, Hartley Jackson, and they have Shaza McKenzie listed, although she is not a favorite. The velocities, and a lot more. There's wrestlers, referees, announcers, commentators that are featured, giving you a full appreciation of the Australian independent scene. The cards sold out a lot faster because cards are hot right now, as I'm sure Jeremy Lambert will tell you. But you can order your Australian wrestling cards now at Pario Magazine. That's PARIO magazine.com.au/AUS WRES cards. Follow Australian Wrestling Cards on social media at AusResCards for updates. Join the hundreds of fans who have already discovered the excitement of Australian wrestling cards.
I made the note that essentially both of these movies at their core are love stories, because it's all about Deadpool trying to save the one that he loved.
Yeah, We have very different rom-coms in our life, but they are both rom-coms.
Mhm.
Like at its core, it's a great love story. So everybody should go and see them with their loved ones and, perfect date night movies.
But I thought the plot in this one was much more developed and well-rounded this time because a lot of the characters get a bit more development too. Like Colossus gets a bit more time to sort of explore who he is. Negasonic gets a lot more time. And Deadpool, we see kind of being much more heroic than he's ever been as well.
Yeah, you actually feel like you actually can tell he actually cares, or at least he somewhat cares. He doesn't want people to know, but he does have a little bit of a heart and a soft spot for helping kids, or at least like mutants in general, like younger generation mutants.
Yeah, because I think he's like all of the trouble he went through when he was mutated. So he's
Hmm.
like, it seemed kind of shitty that these kids get shafted like this.
Yeah, especially with the fact that like he was not born a mutant, he was turned into a mutant, whereas these kids didn't have a choice. They were just born that way and they're being told like they are not right.
Yep. And I love that the movie calls out the lack of X-Men aside from Colossus and Negasonic as well. Like they're walking through the X Mansion and Deadpool's just like, it's funny that the house is so empty. Like, what's going on here? Where is it?
Yeah. I love it.
And then we
Especially
get,
because he's in a Hawaiian shirt, like laying down on the couch, and he's like, "Wait a second, what?"
yeah, why is the house empty? Where are the rest of the X-Men? And then we get that like panning shot across the doorway and the whole cast of X-Men Dark Phoenix are there because
Yeah.
they filmed that moment where they're like, uh-oh, and closed the door.
Oof.
They filmed that on the set of Dark Phoenix and then just sent the footage over to the
Oh,
Deadpool
that's fun.
team. So they were just like,
That's really
oh,
fun.
shut the door.
I don't. A fun fact: I don't think I saw Dark Phoenix. I saw
Mm.
Days of Futures Past, but I think
Yeah,
that's
he
the
didn't
only
miss much.
like yeah, that's the only newer like X-Men with like McAvoy that I actually ever saw. I think I didn't think I saw any of the other ones.
Yeah, they kind of lost the plot with the X-Men. It got a bit ridiculous.
Yeah, I was gonna say I feel like there were so many of them; it was hard to keep track of.
Yeah, they weren't great. We also get a lot more callbacks to the 4 or 5 moments to become a hero line as well.
Yeah.
Particularly right before Deadpool goes and shoots all the Essex house staff and potentially mutant abusers.
Yeah. Probably wasn't the best idea.
Yeah, he was doing a nice thing, and then he just randomly pops this guy in the head, and you're like, oh my goodness.
Yeah. Wasn't the best.
We also get the whole rock meat bottom moment again, like where Deadpool is like, I never got like I'm at rock bottom now. You're like, oh Jesus Christ.
It can get worse.
I did love that they went back to that. Like I said, it's very formulaic. They're like, okay, this worked in the first one. Let's just
Hmm.
rejig it and do it again in this one. Like they do a lot of the
Yeah.
same things over and over again.
Because it works. They know it works, so why fix it? There's nothing to fix at that point.
I also wrote that there's a few moments in this one where the CGI is not great. There's a lot more of it in this one. And there are
Hmm.
moments where it's like, oh, that looks bad.
Juggernaut does not look the best. We'll put it that way. He looks very distorted in his little helmet. Like it's not good.
Well, I think that's because they did use someone's face and just warped it in the helmet.
It looks awful though. Like I don't know. It just wasn't very, very well done. And then even that's like some of the scenes with like Domino where she's like driving the truck later on in those sequences and she's like, avoiding things and people are falling off of trucks and she's just like, oh yeah, I landed fine. It's just not that great.
Yeah, those big action moments there's a lot of parts where I'm like, oh, that doesn't look very good.
No, it's not very clean at all. But I mean, I guess they had to cut budget somewhere.
Also, I wrote down that there's a line in the movie where Juggernaut says, beat it, midget. I'm like, I can't imagine that would go well, like that would fly today. And I don't know how it even went in 2018.
Yeah, I don't maybe it's because not a lot of people caught on to it, just because Juggernaut has such a distorted voice, but yeah, I mean, it is pretty clear. So, I think it's just one of those, like, let's see how far we can push this envelope with controversy and our R rating and, all that other good shit.
Yeah. Also, Cable calls Deadpool a dumb cunt. I was like,
Yes, he does!
I bet that was very shocking for US audiences when that hit in the
I
cinema.
think I think I was so, numb to it because of I watched Game of Thrones for some time, so that word gets thrown around quite a bit, but yes, for general audiences in the US, that is not, a word that gets thrown around very often. Um, so yeah, I mean, like I said, now I've grown accustomed to it because you guys say it like it's going out of style, but
Yeah. When he dropped it, I was like, oh, you don't hear that very often in US stuff.
nope, nope, not very much at all.
And then I think it's in the jail sequence, some really cool music in there.
Yeah, this movie had a really and like just like the last one, there's a lot of soundtrack and it's just very well fitting for the film. Like well placed moments with the right songs and the right music.
Well, I was talking more about like there's a song written specifically for this where it's just like, holy shit balls. It's like this
Oh,
big epic score where all of the lyrics are just holy shit balls after and
y-
over and over again. It's like,
yeah.
oh, that's funny. That made me laugh.
That whole jail cell or the jail system was so interesting with the collars and stuff like that. Like it's just a pretty genius idea on that company to formulate something to keep the mutants at bay by just fucking with them.
Hmm. Juggernaut also threatens to melt Colossus down and make him into a cock ring. I was like, whoa, okay. Yep, we kept the sexual tone from the first one. It's
Yeah.
definitely more toned back though in this one.
Yeah, there's not as much I mean, well,
It's
mm,
it's it's still pretty intense, but nowhere near as much. They
I
do
don't know,
reference glory holes and docking, but that's about as far as they go.
there's also, like, baby penis.
Eh, toddler weenie.
Little baby legs and just it was a lot.
That
That
bit
whole
is very
meeting
funny. That bit is very
that whole
funny.
meeting, you couldn't put pants on for this?
And
Nah.
he's fully Winnie the Pooh in it.
Dude, for real, like and it's just so it's such an awkward thing to watch because it's like a grown man's torso and head, and then there's the little baby legs
Good baby
dangling.
legs. Yeah.
Ugh, it's awful.
That sort of leads on to all of the pop culture references in this one. It's a long ass list this time around. Like there was a lot in the previous one, but there's even more in this one. Like they really lent into that sort of let's not even try and hide this. Like let's actually mention it a lot.
Yeah.
So we've got Golden Girls again. Did
Mhm.
you notice the Golden Girls reference in this one?
Nope.
So in the opening sequences when Deadpool's swords are like floating around
Uh-huh.
on the like butt on the handle,
Uh-huh.
there's the words B and Arthur
Oh, I did
engraved in
not notice
gold.
that.
Yeah, like
Mm-mm.
it does a like pan shot of like this is the handle, like stops there, and it's like it says B on the end of his sword.
That's funny. I love that.
We also get "Talk to Me, Goose" from Top Gun.
Yeah, I
There's a
recognize that one.
there's a reference to Interview with a Vampire when they're talking about Tom Cruise and Kirsten Dunst, and then
Mhm.
Deadpool's like Kirsten Dunst, Kristen Dunst. Mm.
That one cracked me up because I actively love that movie, and I was just like, "That's a good reference, I guess. Sure."
There's also a reference to Batman versus Superman.
I did not catch that.
So Deadpool says to Vanessa, "I was fighting a caped badass until I realized his mum was also named Martha."
Oh God.
Because in Batman versus Superman, they're like fighting each other, and then one of them says Martha, and the other one looks at him like, "Why would you say that name?" Like, because they're both of their mums are named Martha.
Yeah, that's something.
And Deadpool also does the "I'm Batman."
Yeah, he does do that.
They talk about Frozen.
Yes.
Justin Bieber is name dropped.
Mhm.
They have the RoboCop line that Colossus says, and everyone calls him out on it, like, you just took that from RoboCop,
Yeah. That's great.
you big metal idiot.
Mm-hmm.
We see Wolverine on the cereal box of the kid at the Essex house.
There's
Who- That kid is listed in the credits simply as cereal box kid.
I mean, they're not wrong.
They talk about the Harry Potter sorting hat when they decide how they get put into a mutant gang at the prison.
Yeah.
Deadpool says, take away my powers and I'm basically just Hawkeye. I was like, that's good.
It's so good.
They talk about Cable's arm being like the Winter Soldier arm.
Yes.
And then Skrillex dropped a bass.
Oh,
Deadpool says Firefist is darker than the DC universe. Because he's a very grumpy child.
He is quite a lot of anger issues for a young teenage kid.
They talk about Sharknado.
Mm-hmm.
That made me laugh. Tupac and Ice Cube are mentioned. And then, like I said, Deadpool, basically, when we see him with his baby legs, he goes, I'm fully Winnie the Pooh in it.
Yep. There's so many references in this. It's ridiculous.
He has his Basic Instinct moment when he has the baby legs too. And then they talk about the Proposition, the Unabomber.
Mm-hmm.
They make fun of Thanos with Cable and like try and talk about that. Abomination is mentioned. This is one that definitely wasn't in there on purpose, but they kind of reference the Acclaimed before they even existed. When he says Sesame Colossus,
Yeah.
maybe time travel is real.
It's just another wrestling reference that you picked up on because that's you.
Yep. Then there's Karate Kid when he tells him to sweep the leg, Johnny.
Yep.
Then Domino is described as Black Widow. We get 11 from Stranger Things mentioned.
Yes.
The Apple Genius Bar, and even Sure is talked about.
It's a good hodgepodge. Like, I feel like anybody who appreciates nostalgia and references to all different pop culture things are gonna just eat it up. And I feel like that's probably why so many people like Deadpool in general, like the whole franchise. It's just a whole bag of ridiculous stuff.
Yeah, I think because it has that tone of like, okay, we can just like poke fun at stuff. Like we don't have to take this
Worry about
seriously.
it.
It's not supposed to be a serious, dark superhero movie. Like we're just having fun.
Yeah.
There's also a reference to the original creator of Marvel, like the original artist and Deadpool creator. When they talk about, it was probably an idea brought up by a guy who can't draw feet. When they're talking about like who came up with where did Domino's powers come from, and Deadpool says it must have been the idea of an artist who can't even draw feet, which Domino and Deadpool's creator Rob Liefeld is often widely mocked for avoiding drawing characters' feet or hands.
That's interesting.
So like in the comics, he very rarely like shows their feet.
It's usually like waist up or like whatever have you. That's
Well,
so
like yeah,
interesting.
like they're like cut off at like the shins
The
or something.
knees.
Like,
Yeah.
their feet are outside of the box. So.
That's
And
so weird.
if you watch the Deadpool and Wolverine trailer, there is another funny reference to that in that trailer as well.
Oh boy.
So when Deadpool and Wolverine are like walking in slow motion as these buildings blow up behind them,
Yes.
one of the buildings is Liefeld's Just Feet store.
Okay. That's fantastic.
And then the post credits, we see Deadpool fixing past mistakes in the timeline. So he goes back and he kills the original Deadpool from X-Men Origins Wolverine.
Mm-hmm.
Just immediately just pops him in the head straight away. He's like, this was a mistake. He shouldn't have been here.
Yep.
And then he kills Ryan Reynolds after he finishes reading the Green Lantern script, trying to prevent him from making Green Lantern. Like, yeah, Ryan Reynolds definitely like regrets that movie, I think.
It's so obvious, and it's one of those things that he will always be able to like look back on and be like, yeah, that was a bad choice, but look at how much fun I can have with it now.
Yep. And I think that the post credits in this one are going to be a great like segue into the plot of Deadpool and Wolverine, where they're obviously going to go and fix the timelines.
Yeah.
That will be fun. In terms of some trivia and stuff for this one. So the budget for this one was basically doubled from the original. So this one was $110 million, obviously with all the extra CG and a couple of bigger name actors popping up. So 110 versus 58 million.
It's a bit much.
Didn't really change box office though.
That's interesting.
Yeah, so they made 782.8 on the first one. And then on this one, they made 785.8.
Okay. Yeah.
So they only made an extra $3 million. But they spent
Double
an
the
extra
budget.
double,
That's
extra $52
kind of
million.
disappointing. That's a bit disappointing, I feel, for them. They like to look at those numbers and just be like, wow, we couldn't, I mean, we did great, but we couldn't have done any better than an extra 3 million.
Yeah. Like I think having watched them both back to back now, I still think one is a more fun, enjoyable movie.
Mm-hmm.
But storyline wise, this one's story is much better. So it's kind
Yeah.
of like about the same. Hopefully
Yeah.
the next one is great too.
Oh, the next one will be great because Hugh Jackman's in it. Come on. You can't do anything wrong.
So with $785.8 million in the box office for this one, it was the ninth highest grossing film of 2018. So number one was Avengers Infinity War,
Okay.
then Black Panther, Jurassic World, Incredibles 2, Aquaman, Bohemian Rhapsody, Venom, Mission Impossible Fallout, then Deadpool, and then Fantastic Beasts, The Crimes of Grindelwald.
That's,
So it's got the movies that beat it are kind of expected, except for maybe Aquaman
because Aquaman is trash.
and
But
Venom, surprisingly.
hey, don't shit on Venom. Tom Hardy's got it. Or yeah, Tom Hardy tried a lot, and I love Venom.
Yeah. But yeah, I'm surprised the sequel to Deadpool didn't do significantly better.
Maybe it was just, I don't know. I feel like with the Fantastic Beasts kind of being thrown in there and Incredibles, that's probably what made that happen.
And I think we were probably starting to get into that superhero fatigue. Like Infinity War happened, and that was kind of the conclusion.
Yeah.
And Black Panther, like those are two major movies in the MCU, so people were probably like, okay, I'm over it.
Yeah,
with
plus
Aquaman and Venom and then Deadpool, like that's what, 5 superhero movies in 1 year? Like, that's a lot.
yeah, it is. And I mean, I understand Aquaman did better, but like after people saw it, I feel like they kind of were just like, oh, I hope that's not the future of superhero movies. And unfortunately for DC, it has been a recurring issue. So
Yeah, they've had issues with their universe.
yeah, I was really optimistic.
Hopefully
for
Superman
it, but
turns it around for them.
yeah, I mean, we'll see, but I'm not gonna hold my breath on that one.
So this movie then became the highest grossing X-Men film of all time. So it's funny that Deadpool 1 and 2 are 2 of the highest grossing X-Men movies, and
They're not direct X-Men movies. They're just
yeah,
like spin-off
they
X-Men
have a
movies,
couple of
kinda?
little cameos of X-Men.
Yeah.
This one did end up topping Logan. So it was Deadpool was the highest grossing R-rated film. Then Logan beat him. Then Deadpool 2 beat Logan. And then Joker came out and beat them all.
Oh, I mean, there's that.
because Joker ended up having a gross of over $1 billion.
Yeah, that's insane. That is absolutely insane for that movie. I mean, it's a great movie, but it's absolutely nuts to think that that movie, which is completely different. There's no action really in that film.
Yeah, it's a
But
drama. It's not a superhero movie.
right, and for it to make that much money versus like one that is action packed, like left and right nonstop, it's so interesting.
Especially because I imagine that Joker movie was a lot cheaper to make because it doesn't have a lot of CGI and
No,
crazy
it's just
bits and pieces of
right.
action sequences. Apart from
No,
the
it's just like
final like
raw.
chase scene.
But yeah, even still, like that's a lot of just raw footage. I feel like there's no hardcore like CG or like voiceover shit, and I can't imagine that the editing process was like super extensive on it either.
Yeah, there's no like big superhero fight type moment. There's no
Mm-mm.
Batman. There's nothing of that sort.
No, so it's just
Downfall of a
strictly going
man.
on like acting.
There's also a PG-13 rated version of this movie, the Once Upon a Time in Deadpool version.
Oh yeah, the Christmas special.
Yeah, so it was released in December 12th, 2018. Apparently it's not good.
Yeah, there's a couple people that have told me about that because Chloe wants to watch Deadpool so bad, and I've told her repeatedly like that's not happening. And so people have been suggesting to me that she just watch Once Upon a Deadpool. I'm like, yeah, sure, I'll take a look at it, and I never did.
Yeah, apparently
But
it's not good because obviously it loses a lot of like what makes Deadpool special.
yeah, well, and plus like you can also like watch it edited on like TV when it comes on like certain channels on cable and stuff like that, and it is heavily edited.
Yeah, I assume at this point they basically just play Once Upon a Deadpool when they put that on TV.
Yeah, I haven't seen the Deadpool actually, I haven't seen a Deadpool, marathon, like, I've seen a bunch of other marathons that have come on recently, like, Die Hard is on all the fucking time. It's like, you expect certain things to get cut out, but I can't imagine they'd be able to actually put Deadpool out there and keep it in its entirety and make it make sense.
Yeah, no,
Because there are vital things that have to happen.
yeah. So that does make me happy that Deadpool and Wolverine isn't PG-13. Like they're giving it the full R rating. They're letting them do what needs to be for a Deadpool movie to like feel right.
Yeah, but I'm sure there's some hardcore, like, solid red lines that you cannot cross before they like signed off on it just because it is now part of like Disney, and I feel like there's a bit that they're going to have to like be tread lightly with maybe.
Yeah, I don't know. I'm interested to see it and see where the boundaries are for this movie of like what they are and aren't allowed to do. It's
I
definitely
think
something to tweak.
I'm excited to see that, but I think I'm more excited to see what this means for the X-Men franchise moving forward. I'm really stoked to see what kind of doors this opens. Just because, we have seen X-Men now pop up like in the Marvel universe at least. So I'm stoked.
Yep. So in terms of a rating, what would you give Deadpool 2?
I'm gonna give Deadpool 2 a solid like 4.5. I love Cable. Cable's one of my favorite characters in the world, and I think Josh Brolin knocks it out of the park. I just feel like he's super misunderstood. Like he looks like a villain, he acts like a villain, and he's kind of a villain, but at the same time, he's just trying to like make things right to get back to his family to make sure that they don't fucking die.
Yeah. Yeah, so I gave this one a 4 out of 5, I think, because it has a more fleshed out story than the original one. So
Mhm.
it does have a better story, but the CGI moments sort of let it down a little bit. But apart from that, it's really enjoyable watch. I would still put
Mhm.
Deadpool 1 above Deadpool 2, though.
Yes, and honestly, Deadpool and Wolverine are going to go at the top of the list anyway because again, Hugh Jackman's in it.
And I guess they've got Marvel, like Disney money now, so it's probably going to be pretty epic.
Yeah, I feel like there
I'm
was
very keen to see it.
probably yeah, I feel like there probably wasn't a big like a small budget for this. It was probably just like a tell us how much to put on the different
Yeah.
cards,
How much do you need?
Mhm.
Alrighty. Thank you for listening to the commentary booth. If you enjoyed the show, please remember to rate, review, and subscribe on podcast services and on YouTube. You can follow Karina on Instagram at Miss Karina Renee, and you can follow me on social media at Jamie Ups Media and at Pario Magazine. The Commentary Booth is a fan-funded production of Jamie Ups Media. You can support the podcast alongside our magazine, Pario Magazine, on Patreon at patreon.com/Jamie Ups Media. The following people supported at the publisher level or higher, and you cannot fathom how incredibly appreciative we are for their support.